Do you believe, with that in mind, that the public are seeing a slightly desperate Tyson Fury trying to find fights, trying to justify his existence to the world? Welcome to Talk Boxing with Simon Jordan and Spencer Oliver. This is episode 26. Don't forget to keep liking and subscribing to the channel and keep watching the videos to the bloody end. Apparently some people aren't. Anyway, let's get on with this week's show. Spence, you okay?
Simon, I'm very good. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad. Interesting week coming up. Interesting week that's just gone. And we'll get into events over the weekend with Haney, Lomachenko, and obviously, of course, Katie Taylor and Chantel Cameron. And of course, coming up this weekend is a great fight between Lawrence Okolie and Chris Billam-Smith. But I want to start with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury, in my mind, is a hero of mine in terms of his achievements in the boxing ring. But there is a deterioration and a slight degradation of people's perception of him by this consistent, or not so much consistent, but this re-emergence back onto social media with this deluge of rather bizarre rants and rather bizarre claims of who he might want to fight and who he might not want to fight. You know, raging at Joe Rogan, talking about fighting Francis Ngannou, and having a rant about someone else. What do you make of all this? I mean, part of boxing is people's perception of you, and part of the engagement and the relationship that people have with fighters is not only their contribution. Ultimately, it's because of what they do in the ring, of course, but there's also a little bit of style over content and substance. What do you make of what Tyson's doing at this moment in time, and why do you think he's doing it?
Look, you know, Tyson Fury is a huge character. Inside of the ring, he's great, and outside of the ring, he's equally as entertaining. He's a showman, and that's what makes, you know, sort of like, you know, modern day greats and the best of their eras, etc., etc. Because, you know, he talks the talk and he can walk the walk. But in recent times, it's been a frustrating time for the heavyweight division as a whole. Fights that have been broken down, fights that have been on, that have broke down in negotiations, and most of them involving Tyson Fury. You know, with this whole Alexander Usyk situation, we thought we was going to get Anthony Joshua.
He's back on that one again, isn't he?
Yeah,
about
absolutely.
what a house Usyk is and so on and so forth. Yeah,
he was talking about now, let's just take the 30%, and forget the rematch clause, let's get it on, etc., etc. You know, and then this Dempsey McKean has just come into it. He's talking about that fight now happening out in Australia. I think for me and for the public, people just want to see Tyson Fury back in the ring. We want to see him in action. Stop all the talking. Stop this. Let's get a fight done, but a fight where somebody's going to recognise it. Like, you know, we need to see someone of some sort of substance. For me, but I think he's at that stage.
But he must know that. I mean, he's not. When you talk to Tyson, there's two versions of him. There's the really considered, stylish, charismatic person that came into the dressing room at Wembley before the Dillian Whyte fight. And then there's that other part that starts screaming and shouting and telling everyone that they've got to pay him half a billy and starts effing and jeffing. And I know that I've got no problem with bad language. It goes with the territory.
Yeah.
But I've got a problem with a lack of substance. He must know that it's slightly laughable to start calling out fighters and start calling out fights or potentially making fights with names that no one considers to be worthy of him. He can't assume that everyone's a mug, right? Because everyone will swallow the concept of Derek Chisora because there's a degree of affection to Derek Chisora. There's no chance he was going to beat Tyson Fury, but everyone knows he's got to stretch his arms. Right? But when you start to come again with a situation where there's fighters that no one's interested in, have no repute, no value in the marketplace, and are just people paying Tyson Fury to turn up, pick up some easy money, and get onto the next gig, he must know that.
Absolutely. Look, the paying public are not mugs, you know, and it's, you know, it's difficult for people with the value of tickets today to accept Tyson Fury at this stage of his career, where we've talked about undisputed fights, unification fights, Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua, and we get Tyson Fury, Dillian Whyte, then we get Tyson Fury, Derek Chisora. Now we're talking about Tyson Fury, and his latest one he's talking about is this Dempsey McKean out in Australia. The public won't accept that. You know, we want to see now, we've had this for now 2 or 3 years, we want to see the best against the best. We're talking about this 4-man competition. I don't know where they're at with that. I think Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder apparently is close to being done. That fight is close to being done. Tyson Fury versus Alexander Usyk seems as far away as ever. Now Fury's talking about, you know, like Francis Ngannou and different people.
That's for the summer, though, isn't it? The Saudi thing is for December.
Absolutely.
So we're talking about, really, we have got into the stage now with the heavyweight division where it's almost become a tacit acceptance that these guys are going to fight at best, at very best, once every 6 or 7 months.
But don't you think we need
best?
Don't you think we need a recognisable name in the summer? If Fury wants to fight again in the summer, we've got to have someone of some sort of substance. I just don't think the paying public. Look at the price of the tickets, the price of the pay-per-views. You've got to give people value for money, and he's at that stage.
But he's a law unto himself, isn't he? And despite all the protestations and despite all of the observations that will be made by both hardcore fight fans and casuals, when Tyson Fury eventually lands back in a ring, dollars for donuts, there'll be a full auditorium and a full interest level from the pay-per-view point of view. It may not be the numbers that they want to get to in terms of a scale that you would expect to get to if he's fighting really big fights, but there'll still be economic value for Tyson Fury in this. Do you think that Tyson is moving into the territory where he's not understanding, he's providing more problems than he's providing solutions? It's all well and good saying that Andy Ruiz priced himself out of the equation for a fight in the summer. But in the same way that he attaches value to himself, others are going to attach a value to themselves.
Absolutely.
And he's not the only game in town. He's not. I mean, he will argue that he's the A side. Everything comes with him.
Yeah.
But do you believe, with that in mind, that the public are seeing a slightly desperate Tyson Fury trying to find fights, trying to justify his existence to the world? Because I listen to those and I think they were funny a few years ago.
I was going to say that.
They were humorous, they were engaging, they were insightful. Now they're repetitive, they're regurgitory, we don't learn anything from it, and people are starting to look at it and go, that's great, Tyson, but not interesting to us, full stop.
Tyson Fury is in danger of pricing himself out. He's in danger of completely pissing off the public, because they're getting fed up with it now. Like you said, everybody loved it a couple of years ago, but it's repetitive, the same thing, and we're not getting the fights over the line that we need to see. You know, I think he needs to get back to where he is. Focus now on your legacy, boxing the people that matter, that you need to fight to cement your legacy of this modern era. And I think that's where he's at this stage of his career, because before he knows it, time's going to be ticking by, and he's going to miss the boat, and he's going to miss those fights, and he'll damage and harness his own reputation. Yeah,
well, he'll impact upon it. I mean, the question is that Tyson, this time last year, just over a year ago, fought Dillian Whyte.
Yeah.
Okay. And then announced his retirement, played hide and seek with himself, put a bet on with Piers Morgan, which he never paid, and then fought Derek Chisora.
Yeah.
Then we had the fiasco around Saudi, and there's mixed messages about that. A lot of people, and I think us included, have alleged that Tyson Fury priced it out with Alexander Usyk, but other sides of the argument say there wasn't a contract on the table from Saudi. And the problem is that when Saudi comes into the mix, it creates this idea in people's minds of what they can get rather than what's realistically available if the Saudis aren't at the table. So we know that Tyson have got into a peeing competition with Usyk about rematch clauses. He introduced it initially. Then he decided when Alexander Usyk was taking the high ground and effectively giving him everything he wanted, he then wanted to take the rematch table,
the rematch clause,
or even the rematch thing off the table.
Right.
So we've got to a point now where Tyson seems to be the problem in the room. I'm all for, and I think there's got to be a bit more. I don't know whether Bob Arum needs to step in or whether Frank Warren needs to re-engage and George Warren need to get hold of Tyson and say, this isn't great. But then they'll say, well, great, you tell him what he's going to do. He's a law unto himself.
And this is the problem, that somebody needs to get hold of the reins and say, look, Tyson, let me give you a little bit of direction as well, because I know that you want to control it all, but that effectively is messing things up. Someone with a little bit of the experience needs to give him a little bit of direction, because I think that's what's missing right now.
The tragedy of it is, insofar as we're talking about it. So it's still giving Tyson airtime.
Because he's the biggest name of this era right now.
Well, he is, but the world goes on.
Yeah.
And ultimately, Tyson Fury will fight whoever he wants to fight. I just think that it would be better served Tyson maintaining. I don't understand why someone that is as elite as he is in so many different ways, from his performances in the ring to the manner in which he can engage with the media, feels the necessity to go and do social media grabs that make him sound like a moron,
Yeah.
At the same time, making him sound like he's got no substance. At the same now, whether maybe he wants to engender a spirit of I'll be public enemy number one, and everyone can be against me. I can't imagine that's what he wants.
No, I don't think he's that sort of character. You know, I think that he's one of these guys that's built up a huge fan base, and people love the story of where he's come from. To where he's got to, the people he's inspired along the way, mental health, being a big advocate of that. I think that what he's done and what he's achieved inside and outside the ring up till now has been brilliant, but people are starting to get pissed off.
Do you expect
with
to
these
see
rants on social media? We need to see a fight in August. We need to see someone of some sort of substance. Don't forget these names, the lesser names. We need to see him against someone that's going to give the public some interest.
Do you expect to see him fight this summer?
I hope so. I was going to ask you that question, actually. I was going to throw that to you.
Well, I'm a bit ambivalent.
I think that the clock is ticking. I really do. I think that, Simon, to put these sort of shows on is a big thing. The advertisement of the whole shows, the TV networks, etc., doesn't happen overnight. And while the clock is ticking, we're coming to the end of May now. It worries me that we won't see him in the ring again until next December, which is tragic.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm worried because I showed very little interest in him fighting Derek Chisora in December. So unless he's going to go into the ring with a sort of interesting and engaging dance partner,
I agree.
I kind of almost feel that whilst Tyson's making a lot of noise and that noise is lacking any substance, and people are suggesting that he's full of ultimately as a result of it they're losing interest, there's an element of hypocrisy because everyone will flood to the ring and to the auditorium and to wherever he's fighting next. He's going off to Australia to fight this Dempsey McKean if that's what he's doing. I thought he was going over there to support Joseph Parker in a fight. So maybe people are getting 2 or 2 together and making 7 out of 4.
Yeah.
Tyson is not a fool, and he knows his own worth. And I suppose we're just going to have to wait and see and move on with things that are happening.
Yeah.
And okay, Tyson, maybe someone needs to get in his ear. Maybe his father needs to correct his thinking. But part of the allure of Tyson Fury is Tyson Fury doesn't do anything that Tyson Fury doesn't want to do.
I'm just hoping we don't get to this stage again where we know about this 4-man competition, but we also thought that all these guys were going to get out again. They were going to be in competition before that event went on. I'm hoping that maybe
if the governing bodies did their job and started to enforce mandatories at an early stage and made them fight certain fights at a certain stage, i.e. he hasn't fought since December. With all medical conditions prevailing, maybe there should be a forcing of fighting somebody that's a mandatory after 6 months, and maybe some rule changes might bring to the fore, and maybe Tyson not being a riddle wrapped up in an enigma, and doing what he said he was going to do, which is this list of 10 fights that he was going to fight and give everybody a chance to fight. But now it seems to me that Tyson's got some idea of what his own worth is, what he should be getting. And maybe, I mean, the idea that there's a lot of misdirection going on, people are starting to seed in people's minds, there's a possibility he won't fight again. Maybe, and maybe this is just me being, an idealist, maybe they're getting a look over here and they're going to pull something out over there that's going to surprise everybody. Because I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past them.
Yeah.
What they'll be, I don't know.
Do you know what, a name's just come to mind now, Martin Okolie, who's boxed. Now listen, Dempsey McKean, you people were saying, well, Martin Okolie's when his name was mentioned against Tyson Fury, and he's WBC ranked number 2, I believe, he's up there. When that name was mentioned, people were saying he's got no value to his name. We know how good he is, but he's high risk, low reward. There's no value to his name. Well, Dempsey McKean would be in a similar pot. So
absolutely.
Martin Okolie, who's been on social media recently, saying, "Let's get it on. I'm here. I'm ready to fight."
He would do because he knows.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, you don't have to go to Australia. So I'm going to box someone.
No.
When you've got
I'll be interested
a high ranked.
I'll be interested to see if he does do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll be interested to see if people put two and two together and say, they want to make 7. But look, there's no point us ruminating too much about what Tyson's not going to do. Let's move on to something that has been done, that has an equal amount of disdain and distaste that could be potentially levied at it, which is the outcome of the Devin Haney-Vasily Lomachenko fight on the weekend. I picked Haney to win the fight.
Yeah, as did I.
Prior to the fight. So I've got no vested interest and no bias about the outcome. I didn't like Devin Haney's comments. I didn't think they were constructive before the fight. I think that making comments that are based upon people's colour is not clever.
Yeah.
And starting to say I can't be beaten by any white boy I don't like, and I lost a bit of regard for him on that basis. But I thought Lomachenko won the fight.
He won the fight.
Yeah.
He won the fight, right? Like, doesn't matter how close it was, and I think we both spoke, didn't we? And we both had it 7 rounds to 5.
We did.
You know, 115, 113, and he won the fight. It doesn't matter how close it was. There was one winner in that fight. A guy that you could tell was always in front from the opening bell was Lomachenko. I think he surprised a lot of people, you know, with his angles. His boxing IQ was brilliant, as we know it is anyway. Sure. He established the jab early. He was getting through the right hand. Hand speed was brilliant. You know, Devin Haney's pluses were he was throwing that right hand to the body. Yep. That was a good shot that he was having. He was trying to slow Lomachenko down. But Lomachenko rolled back the years for me, and I thought that he looked the best that I've seen him for a long time, and there was only one winner, and that was Lomachenko. You know, it was close, but Lomachenko won.
I mean, what happens next? I mean, again, there's a dispute going on. There's been a lot of people making a lot of observations. I mean, Paulie Malignaggi threw in a hand grenade the other day, talking about the fact that, let me give you a little bit of insight. Bob Arum re-signed Devin Haney 2 days before the fight.
Yeah.
And he also, again, I'm not sure these are helpful comments and necessary comments, but he talked about those that suggest that Devin Haney won are people that didn't want to see the white guy win.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's right.
Paulie Malignaggi's always got strong opinions, and some of them sometimes too strong. You know, in the world that
I like him as a commentator.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the world we live in, he just says things sometimes. You just think, mate, you've gone a little bit too far there.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little bit too far, and I think that some of those comments were a little bit too far. Listen, it was a close fight. There's no getting away from that. There were rounds where you get subjective scoring, what you like. You know, Devin Haney, it's not like it was a one-sided fight. Lomachenko, for me, won the fight, but it was not like the robbery that some people are calling it. That's for sure. It was, there was one winner for me, Lomachenko, but it was not a... Robbery is like Jack Catchell and Josh Taylor.
Or even Lennox Lewis in Madison Square Garden against Evander Holyfield. Yeah,
that's exactly right.
Absolutely. But, you know, when you walk out of an auditorium, there are often two fights, right, that you get to see. The one you watch in the auditorium, and then the one you go home and watch afterwards when you take yourself out of the visceral reaction and the emotion that you give. I remember watching Carl Froch versus George Groves live and thinking, Jesus, really, George Groves has done a number on Carl Froch. And he did, right? But when you got home and you saw it more, you actually do see Carl
Froch pulling it back in,
getting back more into the fight, and you actually do come into this space where you think, well, Howard Foster wasn't that wrong. But the outbursts after the fight from Terence Crawford, from Shakur Stevenson, from Jorge Linares, who's fought both fellas, was like, this is almost robbery.
Yeah.
This is almost how they've scored it this way. Now
they were all in the.
That's my point.
Though. Yeah,
that's my point.
Were all in the venue.
But they're not just looking at it from the emotional eyes charged by an environment. They're fighters that see even more than the average pair of eyes will see. Given all of this, and given that Haney supposedly, you know, looks up and admires and hero worships Floyd Mayweather, do you think he should give him a rematch?
Absolutely. I think that, you know, to wipe the slate clean and to get on with his career and move forward, give Lomachenko a rematch. He deserves it because, like we say, we thought the wrong man won. All right, look, the boxing gods were with Devin Haney in our eyes, right? And most of the people that were in the auditorium at the time. So go and right the wrongs, give him the rematch, and you know, and put it right. You know, I think that that's what needs to be done. But do I think that he'll do that? Probably not. I think he's going to go and look at, you know, either Tank Davis. He's going to be looking, you know, at other big names in the division. Because I'm not sure that he'll want to go over that again. That was a tough fight for him. You know, I think Lomachenko proved a lot tougher than Haney thought he was. I think that Haney probably thought, this is a calculated gamble. I'm getting him at the right time here. He's not looked so good in his last couple of fights. Well, how wrong was he? Because I thought that was a masterclass there.
What did you make of Lomachenko's manager, Aegis's reaction?
Yeah.
I think there's noise, and I think that the emotivity was designed to reflect the disappointment they felt, and it was directly after. It's like asking a football manager to be interviewed after a loss of a game, and cameras go straight in your face. And there's a little bit more time for this, but notwithstanding it, if you feel the resentment that you feel, and in a sport like boxing, it's probably going to be even more succinct. But I think he's making a lot of noise to try and create the temperature around a potential rematch. Yeah. Lomachenko would want a rematch, wouldn't he?
Lomachenko would want a rematch, right? Do you know what? I've got to respect Lomachenko for his immediate interview straight after the fight in the ring. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? He was so
dignified.
He's so gracious in defeat, really, and he was just like, you know, look, you know, it is what it is, and you know, if we can do it again, I want to fight again, and etc. etc. I thought that was brilliant. You know, it's nice to see that. You know, like,
well, he conducted himself in a way.
He conducted himself really well.
I mean, Devin Haney at the face-off post the weigh-in gives him a big shove across. I mean, that's all, I guess, part and part of the spectacle. But there was one person that was acting like a statesman. And then, you know, there you might see the impetuosity of youth.
Yeah.
I mean, the money in the room is Devin Haney. He's 24 years of age. There's lots for him to go forward onto. And, you know, Lomachenko is 35 and coming perhaps to the end. And I don't mean to be overly cynical, but, you know, when you look at situations like this, you wonder why these outcomes go the way they do. And you wonder why the scenario that manifests itself where most educated eyes... I mean, Adam Cattrall talked about the belief that he could easily see it scored as a draw. Well, if you could easily see it scored as a draw, then the score is a draw at worst case scenario. Yeah. And you know, and if the bulk of the percentage of the room or the bulk of the percentage of the eyes on the prize are saying that Lomachenko won and the best case scenario was a draw, then you've got an outcome that has to be fought again, doesn't it?
Yeah. If you there's a lot of boxing fans globally, and every one of them that you see had that fight, Lomachenko winning that fight, and you might get the occasional one that said it was a draw. No one said that. I think Spencer Fury
was slightly on the side of Devin Haney, wasn't he?
Was he?
Maybe he's playing devil's advocate.
I saw him mention your name on Twitter somewhere, but I didn't.
Yeah, no, he was. I think he just put something out there. But I was looking.
Oh, it was off the Paulie Malignaggi thing.
Yeah. I think.
Yeah, listen, there was only one. There was one winner in that fight. Let's have it right. Come on, we all know. Yeah, it could have been close in some close rounds, but Lomachenko won.
What do you think? I mean, I made the case. And the more I looked at the fight on the weekend, and I looked back at some fights that Shakur Stevenson's been involved in, and I made the case that I thought Haney would beat him. I saw nothing. No. I correct my thinking. You know, I think that Haney would not beat Shakur Stevenson.
I'm not sure how long Haney's going to hang around at that weight, by the way, 135. I think he's going to have to move up to 140 soon because he's very big for the frame. Yeah. I think that, you know, he may be looking at Davis. Gervonta Davis or someone like Shakur Stevenson, for me, is the cream of the crop right now. And I think that, that performance from Haney there was, look, it was a good performance because he was boxing an unbelievable fighter. But it didn't stand out to me. No, absolutely. Okay, well, look, I mean, I hope that Lomachenko gets an opportunity to correct it. I do.
Would you, on that basis, do you think that Haney had any form of underestimating Lomachenko, thinking he was past his sell-by date? Because often in these situations, like people were suggesting that when Floyd Mayweather goes into a situation on a dubious basis, then he comes back and kicks someone's backside. Do you think Devin Haney next time round would really deal with it better? No,
I think he knew what he was going into. Hence the outburst at the weigh-in. They're pushing him. He showed a little bit of nerves there by doing that. You could see that the occasion maybe started getting to him because you've never seen Devin Haney reacting like that, reacting the way that he has in the build-up to this fight. It's been sort of a little bit out of character. So I think the reality of going in with someone as good as what Lomachenko was may have just that may have been a part of it. That's my feeling on it, and that may have been, and that proved it in that performance because Lomachenko proved just how good he is. Okay, well, time will tell and see if justice is done. I suspect probably I'm in the same place as you that it won't be because opportunities are bigger for people elsewhere. Another big fight on Saturday evening, and a surprise to some, but not to you, I don't think. No, was Katie Taylor, and I guess it's branded as a homecoming, but it was the first time she's fought in Dublin, wasn't it? Yeah. And a big crowd and lots of expectation and a big atmosphere and a big billing and the biggest superstar that Ireland had produced and all of that billing, and yet she came up short. Yeah, incredible event, amazing occasion. Like you say, Katie Taylor's homecoming. The crowds didn't let her down. It was phenomenal. The atmosphere was insane. But Chantel Cameron, as we said last week, you said it's fair to you, could just be too big, too strong. She's got a great team in Nigel Travis and Jamie Moore. They come up with a master plan. Yeah. She stuck to the plan. Katie Taylor was on the back foot. For me, she looked tired from early. For me, she looked tired. Well, that's what Eddie Hearn said, didn't he? Yeah, she did look tired. He said she looked tired from round one. Yeah, well, do you know what it is with Katie? Katie's just like... Is that tension? No, it's how much she trains, how much she works. She's had a long career, going back, and she's had a lot of hard fights. But that's a remarkable observation to make, isn't it? Yeah, no, I'm not blaming that. For her promoter to turn around and say she looks tired from round one. Yeah, I'm not looking into that. I'm just saying there was a sort of like a tired, laboured look about her. What I'm saying is that Katie Taylor, tactically, she had to use her speed, her mobility to get victory here. We know that she's got good, like, she throws punches in bunches, good combinations. She's got great footwork, but she could never stand there with Chantel Cameron, who was naturally the bigger girl, who was the stronger girl. But that's what it was. She got drawn into a fight early. And I did say last week as well, though, that's Katie's downfall, is that she gets drawn into a fight, that she actually likes a fight. And that was her downfall for me. She was falling short in all those rounds there because she was standing there trading with Cameron, who was... She was shooting when Katie was punching. As soon as Katie went, she went as well, and that's where she was getting the success. She wasn't waiting for Katie to go before she went back.
The idea, I mean, I don't know if it's an immediate rematch, but Eddie Hearn was talking about a rematch.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I thought, I mean, Chantel sort of said it, you know, I don't want to fight for things I've already got. Yeah. I want to fight for things that other people have got.
Yeah.
Is there any indication that she could come down to 135 and take... Because it's all well and good Katie Taylor stepping up and trying to take her belts.
Yeah.
She had that opportunity. She lost. Maybe Chantel Cameron should be given the opportunity to fight at 135 and take what Katie Taylor's got.
Listen, and if she does that, Simon, we could have a different outcome. Because we saw how close that fight was.
That's what I was going to say.
But the weight was definitely in favour of Chantel Cameron. And it was a calculated gamble from Katie to go up, as she does. Katie's a pioneer of women's boxing. You can't take away what she's achieved. And the performance there on Saturday night was incredible as well. She bit down on her gum shield. She was coming back, but she was just falling short. I thought it was a fantastic fight, a brilliant fight. Equally as good as Serrano fight. It was one of those.
But what's I mean? Okay, because ultimately there's a rematch in there, and that situation manifests itself. And you've got on one hand, you've got Chantel saying, "I want to fight for other people's belts rather than fight for my own all the time." What should she do then? I mean, ultimately, her main advantage is she's bigger and stronger, and at 140, she can use that advantage. By coming down to 135, she gets an opportunity to shoot for what Katie Taylor's got, but she disadvantages herself by taking her weight down.
Listen, the only people
and
who
loses
know
power
that,
as a result.
The only people who know that is Nigel Travis and Jamie Moore. They will know.
But what do you think?
If she can sustain the strength, I think that she could go down to 135. The reason I say that is because you see the women, they fluctuate between the weights so much.
Yeah.
I think that she didn't look tight at the weight. She looked very strong there, and I think that she probably could go down to 135. And if she went down there and she kept her strength, it's going to be hard for Katie to reverse that.
Do you think Katie Taylor would take that risk? Because it's one thing stepping up a weight class, getting beaten that weight class, and you've always got the backstory, haven't you? Yeah. In this instance, if Chantel Cameron's got her number, and then comes down at 135 and makes that weight comfortably, and doesn't get any weight drain as a result of it, it's a whole different dynamic, rocking back into doubling again and getting done at your own weight class.
Absolutely. Listen, this determines greatness. You know, and one thing you can't deny from Katie Taylor, she'll go to Madison Square Garden. She boxed Amanda Serrano, who's a 7-weight world champion.
But she's now been beat.
She puts it on the line. She's now been beat. So now this is, it's not how you get beat, it's how you come back.
Of course.
That is important, and that's what determines greatness. Katie's achieved everything. She's an Olympic gold medalist. You know, she's been an undisputed world champion. She is an undisputed world champion. She stepped up out of her weight class to try. She fell short, but let's see now.
But she's caught now, isn't she?
There's another chapter of this.
She's caught now by her own. By her own petard, which might be hoisted by her own petard, because there's a rematch clause in there, right? They've already announced they want the rematch.
Yeah.
Do you think if the rematch was put at 140 again, that you'd see a similar outcome?
I think we'd see a similar outcome, yeah.
So she's in a really difficult position, isn't
she? Absolutely.
So if you were in her corner, in her camp, would you be advising her to take different fights? Because if you don't, she doesn't take the fight, she's going to fall into the Joshua territory of not having the stones to go and fight again against the person that just beat you. She loses.
I would activate the rematch clause straight away because this is...
Well, even though you think she's going to get beat?
Well, no, I don't think that. What I'm saying is that there could be a number of reasons why she, like I said to you, she did look more tired than when I've seen her in the past, as in, like, she looks flat, is probably a word, not tired. She looks a little flat, and she looked like she was pushing it, right? So some fighters, when you go out there, you can see they're flowing and they're in a rhythm, you go, they've got it just right. And another time you can go out there and you're struggling the whole time, you're trying to force it. Katie looked like she was doing that, so there may be her reasons. I don't know what the outcome... The fight was a close fight, but Katie's one of them girls. You know, she's, like I say, the pioneer of women's boxing. She'll want to determine greatness. She'll want to go back in there again because that's...
Jane Couch might have something to say about who was a pioneer of women's boxing. Well, but I understand your point.
Let's hope she don't watch that.
But in the event that we are talking about point scoring and being a close fight, does it raise his head again? It's slightly ironic to ask this question, given the fact we're talking about Katie Taylor being tired in the first round. But does it raise the question about 2-minute rounds again and women's boxing in order to get clearer and more clarification on scoring and more margins in the scoring that are clear to everybody, does it again raise its head about the 3-minute rounds?
I think that's always going to be raised. I really do. But you know what? I like it. I like the format. I like where it is. Like, I like the 2-minute rounds. And yeah, it can be more difficult to score. And the girls go, there's not so, the girls sort of roll the dice earlier. But that's where I like it. That's where I like it sitting. I think that extra minute of that round is...
But you're going to get more, then you're going to get more knockouts, aren't you?
Absolutely.
And you're going to get more conclusive outcomes.
Where do you sit with it? Do you like the 2 minutes? Would you like to see it free?
Yeah, I think when I went to the Clarissa Shields Savannah Marshall fight, and I watched Michaela Mayer fighting Alicia
Baumgartner,
I thought to myself, these rounds, the pace of the fight is great, but it feels like you're just getting into the rounds and the rounds are over, and it must make scoring very difficult, because if people are walking around the ring for the first 20 seconds of each round taking a look at one another before they start throwing shots, all of a sudden you're in a situation where significant parts of the rounds are unscorable. So, look, I don't see why, given you're fighting like for like, if you're putting a woman, it's like the argument in tennis, isn't it? If you're, people only play 2 sets in women's tennis and 3 sets in men's, but women are playing against women, they're not playing against men, so why couldn't they play 5 sets? So why can't they do 3 rounds, given the fact that they're competing against a physicality which is the same as theirs?
One thing for sure is that you'll see a lot of different outcomes if it was the 3-minute rounds. That is for sure. Michaela Mayer versus Alicia Baumgartner, I think, would have been a different result had it been in Michaela's favour.
But that's why I mentioned it.
And I think Chantel Cameron would have won that fight clearer over the 3-minute rounds, because she looked the fresher of the two, and she looked like she was getting stronger as the rounds were going.
But it would have also been interesting, given the heavy-handedness of Savannah Marshall. I know she was a little bit formulaic in that fight, to see how she'd have gotten in 3-minute rounds against Clarissa Shields. I don't know. Clarissa Shields seemed, but maybe that argument would fade into the background, because Clarissa got better as the rounds went long, as she went deeper into the rounds. She actually looked better in it.
She was getting in a rhythm. So listen, it's one of those debates that's going to continue until I think that. At some point, I think it
should be 3-minute rounds. I do. That's my view. I mean, for what it's worth. Look, we've got a fascinating event this weekend. A fascinating location inside a football stadium. A fascinating fight, and even more fascinating, I think, given the fact that we had Shane McGuigan on talking about it last week, because he is a real interesting component part, because he's trained both fighters. We've got Lawrence Okolie versus Chris Billam-Smith. It's live on talkSPORT this weekend, so it's a great event. I'm going to it. You're going to it. Okolie's put it on the line here. He's taken a risk by the very nature of his last fight, which was deeply unimpressive, and by the very nature of what Shane McGuigan said last week about the fact that he doesn't think that Lawrence likes to get hurt, and Chris Billam-Smith has the capability of doing precisely something very different to what you see in sparring with different sized gloves. How do you see this one?
Listen, does Lawrence know something that we don't? Because you've got to respect him, because like from what we spoke to Shane about last week and what Shane was saying on air with us last week, they feel very confident. Billam-Smith and the team feel very confident. Going by Lawrence's last performance, which was not good against David Light, it was a poor performance, but he will raise his game here on Saturday night. I think it's going to be a spectacular event. I really do.
I've got a feeling it will be as well.
It's going to be. And who wins the fight?
Well, it's interesting. The framing.
I'm not sure.
The framing of the question that I'm supposed to ask here is it about the result, or does Okolie need to put on a performance? Now, that almost is like assuming that this is Okolie and it's about Okolie. But when you look at the fight and you look at Chris Billam-Smith and you look at the confidence, and of course you're going to have trainers that come in confident. They're hardly going to come in negative. But Shane McGuigan was absolutely unequivocal that Chris Billam-Smith is going to bring some heat, meet him in the middle of the ring, and come to fight.
This fight is all. It's not about the result. This is all about winning. That's all it is, about winning, not how they win. Because one thing you can guarantee.
But it doesn't matter how Chris Billam-Smith.
Well, Billam-Smith's just going to take the fight to him.
But let me characterise it that differently then. It doesn't matter how Chris Billam-Smith wins, right? Because Chris Billam-Smith goes into this fight with people expecting, and by the framing of this question I've been asked to talk about, is almost an expectation from our producer that it's about Okolie and winning, right? The notion is Okolie's got to win in a certain way. And if he scrapes past Billam-Smith with an unimpressive performance, people are going to start pouring in about what Okolie really is. Whereas Chris Billam-Smith, however he wins this fight, will be how he wins this fight.
There's an element of truth to that, though, because of the way that he beat David Light last time out. We're talking about round 4, round 5. They weren't leaving in their 1s and 2s. They were leaving in their 10s, 20s, 50s, 100s. The auditorium was emptying out. So, like, with Okolie, if he just scrapes
But this is different, though. This is different because that audience came to see Lawrence. right? This audience is coming to see Chris Billam-Smith because it's being based in Bournemouth at the Vitality Stadium. Lawrence is walking into a bear pit of people that are going to stay until the end if Chris Billam-Smith is still in this fight.
But what I'm saying is that if Lawrence wins a stinker again here, how does he have another homecoming fight? Let's say that we go to the O2 Arena. How does he feel that again? Because he needs a performance.
He does.
He needs a performance.
But let's be fair. But let's be fair. If it's packaged in a certain way and he gets past Chris Billam-Smith, and the next fight out is Richard Riakporhe, then they'll find a way to sell it.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about because there's an element of the opponent, isn't it, that's going to sell it as well. What I'm saying is, say we get a Lawrence Okolie versus someone like David Light. Let's just use him as an example.
No one's going to buy it.
That's the point.
Yeah.
If he wins in spectacular fashion, he's got himself out of a little hole.
Well, that obviously moves us to the point in the conversation where we described the events, we've described the outcomes that needed to be expected for the next outcome, the next set of eventualities. Who's going to win this fight?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one. I think if you're going on last performances, you're going to lean towards Chris Billam-Smith. I thought that he seems to have good momentum around him at the moment. But then Lawrence Okolie had been out. You know, he'd been out for a while. He'd been changing managers, etc. You know, things that the problems outside of the ring. So you can accept that it was not a good performance that he.
What kind of fight do you think it's going to be?
I think it's going to be a fight where Chris Billam-Smith's going to be taking it to him.
Yeah.
And by doing that, it's got to be educated pressure, because if he could walk onto one, because if Okolie hits you, Okolie does this. He'll throw a jab. He'll throw a double jab and a right hand. He'll tie you up. He's good at it. Sometimes it's not very attractive, but he's very good at the 1-2, tie you up, 1-2. Whereas Billam-Smith likes to roll the dice. He likes to take a chance. He gets in there, throws his shots. He's good on the inside. I think Chris can win. It's a winnable fight for Chris. Chris can win this fight as long as tactically gets it right and doesn't lose his head with the screaming fans that are there. Yeah. You know, he's got to be educated pressure, and if he does that, it's a very winnable fight.
Because there's two determining factors, isn't there, or two influencing factors. The first influencing factor is the absolute, unadulterated confidence of Shane McGuigan telling us about Chris Billam-Smith and what he's going to do, and also describing Lawrence Okolie's frailties and fragilities, right, and what they're likely to look like, because he's seen it manifest itself when he was sitting in the corner. So there's that part.
He was basically saying if Chris bullies him and does it right, Lawrence will lose heart, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I won't like it.
Yeah.
And we'll back off. Yeah. And there was a couple of occasions in previous incarnations when he was in the corner with Lawrence, where Lawrence exhibited that trait, and it was almost, they had to hold him up to make sure that he didn't almost quit. It was the insinuation, wasn't it? So there's two component parts for me. There's the confidence of Shane McGuigan, which made me think about Chris Billam, because I like Chris Billam-Smith. I like him as a fella. I like him as a fighter. Yeah. Then there's the Vitality Stadium with a baying audience that are really behind him. And then on the other side of the argument is, why would Lawrence Okolie take this fight if he didn't think he could win it?
Yeah.
Because he didn't have to take this fight, did he?
No, he didn't have to take this fight.
So he's put himself in the way of jeopardy. So I'm then caught in this situation where I can't help myself but think, this is just a pick 'em. It's just a case of, there's no outcome that I could be surprised by. I could be unsurprised if Chris Billam-Smith went in and dispatched Lawrence Okolie, and I would be the same if it was Lawrence Okolie, or Lawrence Okolie grips and holds for 12 rounds, does a bit of damage, and nicks a horrible 12-round points decision.
You nailed it. That's exactly where we're at. You know, we're all going to have an opinion on this one. What do I think? I think...
Right, put your proverbial on the block.
I'm going to put it on the block. I think we're going to get a memorable night, and I think that Chris Billam-Smith's going to nick it. I think he's going to nick it on points. I think he's going to do enough.
I've got a feeling that you might be right, but I've got a feeling...
All right, hold on. No, you can't put me on the block and then say that. You're going to go the other way.
I let you go first because I know how it's important to you.
You're just going to give me you're going to give me a double ender.
No. I realise that with your Napoleon complex, you need to be in a situation...
You know I'm on a roll at the moment as well.
You are, yeah. Unfortunately, it's a Swiss roll. I am in the same camp as you. I've got this feeling that Chris Billam-Smith is going to win, and I've got this feeling that he's going to stop him. No. So I'm going to go for Chris Billam-Smith. Given the fact that I couldn't find my arse with both hands in a funnel and haven't won a bet for years, that means you're going to lose your money. But I think it's going to. What I do think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a good fight.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to go down. I'm not going to go down a route that Lawrence Okolie isn't worth watching, and it's going to be a spoiler fight. I think it's going to be a good fight. I think it'll be a clash of styles. I think there's personalities involved. I think there'll be jeopardy in this fight, and I think we're going to see a really, really good fight.
Egos on the line, all of that, and there's a lot here. I think that we're going to go. It's going to go down to the wire. I'm going Billam-Smith.
Okay. Okay, Spence, that's it for episode 26 of Talk Boxing. Don't forget to keep liking and subscribing to the videos. When we move on to the Q&A, keep leaving the questions in the comment section below. Me and Spence, we'll see you next week after Bournemouth.